Hi Seb, Ali again. Hopefully this might be the last video of me rambling on. Thanks for your last comments, and I'm sorry if I think I've overlooked that last little bit of slope to deal with, and you are absolutely right. And I've gone back to the model and made some amends to try and rectify that. So I'm sorry about that. You're absolutely right. So I haven't kind of dealt with that all of the slope enough. So we do need to get a few more steps in there. So let me show you first of all what I've done on the pergola. So I've done a bit of a sneaky modification on here. So originally I had a bigger screen to the left with the pot in front of it. If we move that in behind the chair or the box-in punch bag, it's going to get knocked and bashed. So one of my sort of compromise ideas is to use these narrower screens, which I think look quite nice there, and then we can still get three in behind there. So if you look up company called Screen with Envy. I've used them quite a lot before actually. I've used them in our garden here. They do two sizes. They do the larger, squarer ones that I want to use up on your patio and as the balustrade in. But then if we use their smaller kind of, I think it's 3 foot if I remember rightly, just this smaller, narrower trellis style, then I think we can still have the three screens in there behind the egg chair, and it doesn't interfere with that too much and it doesn't look too fussy. And then I've amended this pergola with a little bit of a addition so that we can just have this kind of shelving unit coming out from it. It's all part of the same structure, but you can sort of design this how you like and have as many uprights and horizontals as you want. But that kind of looks quite nice, I think, attached on the side there. We can't fill in across this way because it's going to interfere too much with the sight lines and what have you. But I think this is a nice compromise. We've got a little bit of the best of both worlds there. We've got the screens in, and then you can still have, knickknacks and ornaments and things on there. And then I've just sort of worked out this pergola sizing with kind of what might be a shed or utility door to one side, and then perhaps French doors, kind of two glass windows there on more to the right hand side, and kind of worked with that. So that's the easy bit dealt with. I think everything else was okay. That you were happy with the raised rendered bed here, and all the sizing of everything, and this solution of having the raised bed here. And then I just want to show you another option I've come up with to help with these levels. Let's go to the top view, and I can sort of explain my way around this briefly. Whoops, disappear. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone back to where you what I didn't have. Sorry, let's start again. What I didn't have on the kind of measurements of the plot was the specific measurement where this slope sort of occurs down the garden, and I think I've kind of overlooked that a little bit, so I'm really sorry about that. It's totally my mistake, so I'm glad you've pointed it out. But what I've done is I've gone right back to, I think, one of our first emails, Kat, and you did tell me about it. You did tell me way up front that this kind of slope occurs, you'd said about 3.5 metres away from the back of the house, and then there's a gradual slope, it says, over around 2 metres. So what I've done now, and I should have done this in the first place, is put in these guidelines. So this first guideline is 3.5 metres from the back of the house, the new extension, and then another one 2 metres in. So it just now shows me exactly where these slopes are that we've got to deal with. And obviously we have got a big drop actually. We've got I had sort of fixated, I think, on the 75 centimetres from the back of the house, and then thought I'd dealt with the rest with this retaining wall and what have you, but I clearly haven't dealt with it enough. because if we go down another 50 or 55, that's quite a lot of soil to dig out there. And that's fine because that's going to come out and go in under the patio and in these raised beds. But clearly we're not down low enough. If this is all one level at the lower level, we haven't overcome that with enough steps. So I did start playing with this model because I know we're at final stages and nearly at sign off, and you've really sort of bought into this whole idea. So I'm sorry to be sort of introducing this late in the day, but hopefully it doesn't mess with things too much. When I started putting in some extra couple of steps and working out how we could get this 120, 125 change in level, it all became a little bit step overload. And if we add another 2 or 3 on this design, how it was, the steps kind of encroach too much onto this growing area that we've spent a lot of time sorting out what can go in here and how much room to have around and the spacing of everything around here. So here's what I've come up with. I started thinking that if we start putting in more steps, then we should maybe take the blinkers off, or I should take the blinkers off. And it's not to say it's compromising the design, but I think it's coming up with a solution. Hopefully you'll agree. This is what I've come up with. So the way I think this could work is to increase this bed here so that we've got a nice wide one and that we don't try and keep this symmetrical. You can see that by having an extra step or two, if these go right the way across, it just takes up so much of the design. I had sort of played with it and I thought, oh, it's kind of, it's a little bit too much. But then I've sort of come up with this idea of doing a half recessed step solution. So what that means is that it's kind of a bit of a fancy step design that you don't see very often. Oh, it keeps coming up with that, sorry. So what we've got is the width of the raised retaining bed and the retaining wall, where half of the steps, these, are recessed into that face, rendered wall face, and then these extra ones are protruding out, if that makes sense. So it's kind of half coming out and half recessed. And that kind of works for me because we've got this big raised rectangular bed going down this side now on the left hand side, and that top level I'm hoping will sort of bleed nicely into the second step there, so that we have this nice and flush here into the second step. And if we put a little return on the other side, that kind of makes a nice little nook here and kind of marries up to everything having this bigger sort of raised rendered bed here. And what that does is the raised rendered bed on this side sort of becomes the visual kind of barrier, and then obviously with planting in it, it stops people falling off the patio as well. So it's, this will all be planted up, and that will create a sort of nice sort of view out from the windows as well. You'll have more planting to look at, less concrete, less steps, and we get all of the height difference that we need without it encroaching over this side. So what I've worked out now is 6 steps actually at the maximum that you would ever want, which is 20 centimetre height, which is still fine, it's still comfortable, it's about the height of an internal step really, but it will still be nice to sit on with your cushions. And we've still ended up with just over 3 metres, I believe. I think this worked out for me, that, yeah, 3.13 I've got here. So it's still a nice wide step, and I've still got the 44 width that I wanted, because this is what I don't want to compromise on. As soon as we go to a normal step width of kind of 25, 30, it feels a bit mean and a bit kind of just like a normal staircase. Whereas these are still feature steps. I still feel like you would sit there, perch your drink on the side, you know, it's still a nice access into the garden. I'm happy that it lines up with the doors, so I took the line there, you see, across, so that it all kind of makes sense in relation to the house. And then we can see now with these guidelines on, the guidelines of where the slope would be, where the slope is existing. All that needs to happen is exactly what I'd thought of before, that we would sort of just dig out this slope a little bit, just over the sort of metre or 2 metres that it takes up, needs to come out level, and all of that excess and waste goes in there and under here. So it's not wasted. We create the level area that we want for your planting area. And all we've got to make sure is that there's enough shoring up on this side of the fence. Sorry, it's getting a bit noisy. I've just had 3 girlies arrive after their swim. Easter holidays with 3 excited 11-year-olds. So what I've done now is draw this out a little bit more accurately, because I think before I just kind of put in a straight fence, which obviously isn't right, and I apologise about that. I've kind of misled myself there wrongly. So this will already be shored up with some amount of gravel boards under the fence, because you've already got a slope here. So you just might need to, when this little bit gets dug out, you just might need an extra gravel board along the bottom fence, just a length here that just goes in just to support that. And then everything else is accounted for, because it occurred to me that you did actually have a building on this side. So there must be foundations of some sort, or a sort of concrete pad or something up here. So what I'm not entirely sure about is where you would need this height change to go up. So I've just suggested here that you could put in sleepers or something very cheap and easy to sort of get up down this side access. And I'm thinking from the photos that this fence line will already be at that higher height with gravel boards, if that makes sense, because that's what your existing height level was, and there was a building at that height. So the only thing to kind of really make sure when you're building this is kind of how much you want the builder to dig out, really. I mean, it might be that it's more cost effective to actually have this as just one flight of sleeper steps, kind of mimicking the other steps, just as a narrow flight of steps going up the side here to the top level. Or you might be able to, as I'd originally had, sort of offset it a little bit and have a kind of few steps and a platform and another few steps. So that really is kind of dependent on what's under there at the moment, really, and how much you can shore up this fence line. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you've got any more sort of questions about that, or if I can help any more with that. But I think that's kind of the best I can do there, is to kind of take a rough guesstimate of possible solution that you could have down this side, and just talk to your builder and make sure that the fence is supported, and if you need the steps to come more forward, then do it that way. But I'm pretty sure this is workable. I'm confident that this, that this is a workable design, that we've got this slope here dealt with, and I'm pretty confident that you can achieve this level lawn, which I think would be really nice to do. It would be a shame to have to put in another kind of little terrace halfway through the lawn. That is obviously an option, but it's kind of a last resort option, really. This accounts for 120 centimetres, so yeah, give or take, we're pretty much there. If we've got another 5 centimetres or so to lose over that length, that's not a problem. It may be that there's, a very slight slope down, but honestly you're not going to notice like 5, even 10 centimeters over that kind of sort of span. You wouldn't really notice. It would feel like a level lawn, if that makes sense. It might have a very, very gradual slope to it, but hopefully, you know, that's worst case scenario really. Hopefully this is workable. So let me know what you think. I'm really hoping that we've got, you know, that this is the bottom level, that the bottom level all comes up to here. This slight slope here is the extra 50 that we've now accounted for. And I'm sorry, I think I did overlook that. So I'm glad you've pointed it out. And it's good that we've spotted it now. You've spotted it now before final plans. So let me know what you think of this as a solution. There's one other option. If you didn't like this idea here, the one other way that I played it was just to extend this out a little bit more. So you could sort of, you know, wherever you want really, you could do a little wraparound step at the bottom here. I'm just going to show you that in case that's something that you might want to go for. So we could make it even more interesting like this. I don't want to overcomplicate things, you know, because simplicity is key, but you could do something like that, or an even nicer finish, and your builder won't thank me for this because this is getting more tricky to build, is to do that one slightly like that and then wrap around this one. If I can get in here and do this one for you, and wrap this one round the edge like that. Let me show you this. This is a nice way to finish off. Like I say, your builder won't thank me for it because I'm overcomplicating things, but that's a nice finish going round there. And then if we did that like that, then I would want to just bring out the little sandstone edging, mowing path round like that. So that would be pretty much, I'll measure all this up so it's the right, we've got the right dimensions going, but that's pretty much how we could have it as a wraparound. Hide that again. Right, there we go. So there's sort of two options. That's very fancy. That's stately home stuff, that. So I might be adding kind of pounds and pence to the budget, I'm afraid. But it's best to know about these things up front. Lastly, before I leave it with you, let's pop in the plants so that you could see how this would all look. There. And I'll take you for another little spin around. So actually, if I show you through the windows, you can sort of see how this, oh, no you can't because the windows are obscured for some reason. Let me see if that's a better view. Not really. There's going to be more planting up in front of that view, basically, with that big planting bed. So instead of having that square planter, we've got, you know, more of a foil. I have made those plants quite tall. They don't need to be that tall, but that's kind of how it would look. Let's go all the way down the garden and just come out a little bit so you can see it all before I leave it with you. There. I'll just take those guides out. There. So let me know your thoughts. Sorry again, a million apologies that I've overlooked that, and hopefully this solution isn't too far from where we were at anyway. So let me know if you're happy with everything, if this is okay for the pergola, and if you're happy to reduce the steps to this, and if you'd like me to do the little return wall, or if you prefer the wraparound. And that's about it really, I think. If you feel like we're not on track at all, then please do let me know. If you'd like me to really sort of have a rethink and go back to the drawing board, then by all means do let me know, because this was my mistake at a late stage, that I hadn't quite taken that slope into account, that second slope down the garden. So entirely my fault, guys. And so if you want to think and have some sort of redrafts and think again, then by all means just say. Please don't feel that you can't say that to me. Okay, guys. Take care. I hope you're feeling better, Kat. I think you are saying that you're on the mend, so that's good news. And I will speak to you again soon. Okay, thanks. Bye.